remember to unmute and mute. So that's what we're doing there. And I just really want to thank you all so much for coming out tonight. And I also want to salute my leadership, the African People's Socialist Party, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is one of the Uhuru Three that you'll hear about tonight. He's also the author of the political theory of the African People's Socialist Party called African Internationalism. And I also just want to salute Chair Mwezi, who is a member of the party who is also on our panel tonight, who will be joining us through Zoom. You'll be able to see them up there. And I also just want to thank our other panelists who are, a couple of you are here in the room with us tonight. A few others are joining us via Zoom, and just the organization that are represented who are in solidarity with the Uhuru Three, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, Women's Housing Equality and Enhancement League, and Students for a Democratic Society. We just really appreciate you all being a part of this event and your support for anti-colonial free speech. This is also a way for us to raise funds for the Uhuru Three and the Defense Fund. So there will be an opportunity to pay reparations through that, to donate. And you can already go to Uhuru or handsoffuhuru.org/donate if you are interested in going ahead and doing that. And I just want to practice some chants that we do in the Uhuru movement, if you all can help me, please. So I'll say hands off Uhuru, you'll say hands off Africa. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa.
Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa.
Awesome. Okay, now I'll say drop the charges, you say now. Drop the charges.
Now.
Drop the charges.
Now.
Drop the charges.
Now.
And another one, I'll say unity through, and you'll say reparations. Ready? Unity through.
Reparations.
Unity through.
Reparations.
Awesome. Okay, first, we're going to show a short video about the FBI raids the Uhuru movement experienced in 2022.
There's no sound for me, perhaps for others. Uhuru. Uhuru, I don't want to intervene, but I just wanted to let the Zoom tech know that I can't hear any audio. Uhuru, and perhaps now we could try to restart it if it doesn't disrupt the schedule. And if not, let's keep on moving. Uhuru.
Uhuru, I don't hear it either.
Thank you, comrade.
We're working on it.
Right on.
Uhuru, we should move on. We're having a tech issue. It's not letting us share sound.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, yeah, you can. you can see the video at handsoffahuru.org, and it's really just showing just the violence of the state. You know, the chairman and his wife were just having coffee in the morning, and you know, were busted in. There were drones. They were handcuffed. You know, just the violence that it's really just showing the violence of the state. And so that's kind of like I think what is so shocking, I think, to a lot of us in the white community too, who haven't experienced that kind of violence in the hands of the state. So I do encourage everybody to go see that video and to understand more about the FBI raids themselves and what we're facing. But we will get to hear about the trial coming up and the charges and all of that from our panelists, and there will be a Q&A session as well at the end, so anything that kind of just disconnected maybe because of that can be filled in from that. So I want to go ahead and bring up, well, in our virtual reality, our first speaker, who is Chairwoman Penny Hess. She is the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, author of the Overturning the Culture of Violence. Penny is also one of the Uhuru Three, facing bogus charges and up to 15 years in prison for fighting for reparations to African people and white solidarity with Black power. Please welcome Penny Hess.
Uhuru, everybody. Nads, it is wonderful to see you. And I also want to salute comrades Sandy, Janet, Peter, Wendy, Mads, and all of you who worked on this powerful event tonight. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm very honored to be here also with Mwezi Odom, who is the Secretary General of the African People's Socialist Party and the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fight Back Coalition. Just really wonderful to be here. I'm delighted, I'm excited. So I was asked to give a political overview. And I do want to say just briefly that unfortunately we did not see the video, but you can see it at handsoffahuru.org. It is just 3 minutes, but it shows a little bit of these coordinated FBI raids at 5 a.m. in 2 cities and 2 states, St. Louis and St. Petersburg, Florida, 7 properties and homes total of the Uhuru movement, doors broken down, battering rams, holding M16 rifles, just, you know, flashbang grenades. It was, you know, it was very, very intense. And it was clearly an escalation in this period of the political and military attack on the African liberation movement. So what we're seeing is Chairman Omali Yeshitela has come under attack. The chairman, myself, and Comrade Jesse are under indictment. We are facing 15 years in prison for our words in the indictment. There's no charges of any violence, any money laundering, any serious crime. The only crime, quote unquote, that they're citing is our words, and all of our words are protected supposedly by the First Amendment. So that it is very, very serious attack that targets Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and the attack on Jesse and myself as part of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people under the leadership of the party, is part of the attack on the party and on the chairman, and that this politically is a test case. So if we would be convicted on these bogus charges, because absolutely we are innocent, the future of the First Amendment and the right of everyone to free speech will be over as we know it. And I just want to say quickly, because I was asked to give like a political overview, that we are living in a powerful time in history, comrades, when the oppressed peoples of the earth, when the Palestinian people and others are rising up and fighting like hell to be free, to be rid of this world, of this most vicious and violent and brutal system that has ever existed on the face of the earth. And even the earth itself is in danger based on the kind of plunder and pillage that the system is based on. And I profoundly thank my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the leader, the iconic leader of the African Liberation Movement, in this period, in the period after the counterinsurgency that defeated the Black Revolution of the 1960s, which shook not only the US to its very core, but shook the world, that moved the world. The Black Revolution of the 1960s, that was defeated by a military assault. Chairman Omali Yeshitela has fought single-handedly throughout his entire adult life to complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. And you know, again, I salute the Palestinian people who are on the front lines against colonialism and this colonial violence in the world today. And we also recognize the struggle against colonialism right here inside of these stolen borders. We have indigenous, Mexican, and African people who live in under colonialism right here, and that we know, all of us, if we look at the world and we tell the truth, we know that there are two Americas. There is the conditions faced by us as white people, the colonizers, and those who are colonized right here inside the borders of the United States. Last month we saw the 39th anniversary of the bombing of MOVE in Philadelphia, African people attempting to live in self-determination, to eat healthy food, to be able to just have their own culture, their life as African people, and that the city of Philadelphia dropped a bomb on the MOVE house, murdering 11 African children, women, and men. And that was following the 1978 attack on MOVE, also in Philadelphia, that beat Mike Africa. And Mike Africa and his wife were in prison for 40 years and just released this year. We see the attack ongoing against Mumia Abu-Jamal, and we see the struggle of Leonard Peltier, who has been in prison for 48 years for defending the stolen land from the FBI incursions in the 1970s and US government colonial forces. And we see, as the chairman tells us, the US presidency and the highest offices of this country are in crisis. Nothing is as it has been. We see the US war against Russia, using the people of Ukraine as a weapon, continuing. All of this is connected. This is what the chairman has called the colonial mode of production, something that I want to call on other white people to open our minds and open our hearts to what this really means. Because when the chairman uses a term that is actually a term of Marx called the mode of production. A mode of production is how all goods and services and life itself is produced inside of a society. And in this society that we live in, there is no pristine, no pure, no untouched way to produce and reproduce life and to create the means to sustain life that is not built on a pedestal of the enslavement of African people and the genocide against the indigenous people and the colonial domination to enrich the white people on this planet, the colonizers at the expense of everybody else. There is nothing that can be created outside of that context, because that is the pedestal upon which we sit. And when we look around, those of you who are in Seattle, Tacoma, the Northwest, and see, this is indigenous land. where we are here in St. Louis. Every street is named after indigenous, Osceola, Winnebago, every street is named after the people who lived here and whose land this was. And that the existence of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African Revolution answers the question about how we as white people can take a principled stand in relationship to African people and the rest of the world. How do we rectify this? How do we pay reparations? How do we make our self-criticism to the people on the planet Earth? And we know that a victory for African people is a victory for all people, and free Africa and the United States colonial mode of production, this parasitic social system, these two things cannot exist together on the same planet. So yeah, so I again salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He has fought tirelessly throughout his entire life, his entire adult life, to win this war of ideas, to begin to say that the problem is not racism. Racism and colonialism are not the same thing. Racism is an idea, an ideological construct. The material underpinning of the concept of racism is colonialism. And that is where those ideas come from. It's not enough to say, can white people change the ideas in our heads? It's saying that we can join in solidarity with African people, indigenous people who are fighting against the material political reality of colonialism. We want to end this system. We want to end this relationship that we have. And that struggling against colonialism will overturn the system. We saw Vietnamese, the Cubans, and so many others who struggled against colonialism and won. And the chairman shows, he lays out history, that this system is irrefutably built on a foundation of kidnapping African human beings, human trafficking, rape, pillage, genocide, genocide of the indigenous people, the forced labor of African people, and the brutal colonization of the Palestinians, and whose oppression is modeled off of the colonial conditions here inside of the US. And that the system is built on, as the chairman said, the most brutal, the most horrible things that human beings can do to one another. And the chairman has given us the science that showed us that white people have a relationship to colonialism too, the other side of this dialectic that the chairman talks about. And the chairman has built organization in Africa and Europe and the Caribbean, and actual institutions such as the Black Power Blueprint. The African People's Socialist Party is not a protest organization. It is an organization to gain power in the hands of the African working class. And that's exactly what it's doing. I really invite all of you to come here to St. Louis to see the incredible programs that they have built, the basketball court, the community garden, that are part of a self-determination, building a whole community from scratch. It is amazing. It is beautiful. There's no place else like it in the world. Come to St. Louis and see this. There is a way forward for white people. It has always been my task, under the leadership of the chairman, to talk to other white people, to tell us the truth, because we have been complicit. We have carried out violence. We have been part of the lynchings, the murder, the terror, the massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which the Supreme Court of Oklahoma just wiped out today and said that there could be no reparations to the survivors of that 1921 attack. There's so many ways that white people have gotten resources at the expense of everybody else, but we hate it. That's why we're here. We don't want to be part of that. We want to be part of the future. And that in the past, African people have repeatedly been attacked in a myriad of ways from the COINTELPRO attacks and assassinations in the 1960s of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, to the many other African liberation movement leaders who have faced the same kind of charges in the past that the chairman has done, and that they didn't have the white solidarity movement. This exists now to break the isolation of the African working class. And we have to rally around, comrades. We cannot let this system put Chairman Amalia Shatella in prison. We have to fight back. We can have a future that's part of a world without war, without violence, without the oppression of one group by another. But we can't just say, can we all get along? No, not right now. We have to tell the truth. We have to take responsibility for what the colonizers have done and for the stolen wealth that we have, and say that reparations are owed, that there is unity through reparations. This is the future, that we can go forward. We owe reparations, and the only future is in solidarity with African, oppressed, Palestinian, indigenous, oppressed peoples of the world. We can be part of that. So join now under the leadership of the African Revolution, unity through reparations. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa.
Uhuru, hands off Uhuru.
Hands off
Africa, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Thank you so much, Chair Penny. Just that political summation was so important, and just appreciate how you just let us know how we can move forward as white people and can be a part of overturning colonialism. And next, I want to bring up Chair Jessie Neville, who is the chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the mass organization of white people working to raise reparations under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and is also one of the Uhuru Three. Welcome, Chair Jessie.
Uhuru, Comrade Mads, it's great to see you. And salute to everybody there in Tacoma who has gathered for this important event. Salute to Chairwoman Penny Hess for the powerful overview, to Chair Mwezi Odom, who will be speaking right after me. And we did figure out how to show that video. So as soon as I'm done talking, we will show that video and then go into a presentation from the dynamic leader of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Fight Back campaign and coalition. And I also want to salute Janet, Sandy, Wendy, Peter, Daphne, everybody who's involved in making this event happen, and all of you who are in attendance, including the organizations that came out today to support the Hands Off Uhuru campaign and stand with the struggle to demand the US government drop the bogus charges against the Uhuru Three and end the attacks on anti-colonial free speech, the right of African and colonized people to advocate and organize for their liberation, for their self-determination. So I will be pulling up some slides here, and let me make sure that works correctly. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, looks like you can. Okay, great. So let me put my little timer on here. Sorry. Okay, so it's a great honor to be presenting here today, and I just want to again salute the presentation from Chairwoman Penny Hess, and along with Chairwoman Penny and our leadership, Chairman Amalia Shatella, I am one of the Uhuru Three, and I consider it an honor to stand with my leadership, Chairman Amalia Shatella and Chairwoman Penny Hess, and the African Revolution in pushing back against this vicious assault on the African liberation movement that, as Chairman Amalia Shatella teaches us, exposes not the strength of the colonial system, but the desperate lashing out of a dying system. And we know we are winning, and we know we will win. So I will be talking about the case of the Uhuru Three. And this case, as it says on this slide, will determine the future of free speech. This is a test case for the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and political expression. I encourage people to check out the op-ed published by our attorney, one of our attorneys, Leonard Goodman, in today's issue of the Chicago Tribune, where he says that essentially, if Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru Three were to be convicted, the First Amendment is done. Free speech is over. It would be a precedent by which the US government would be opening the gates to charge anyone at any time for any speech they don't like, just by saying that your speech is being spoken on behalf of a foreign government, simply on the basis that your views expressed in your speech align with the views of a so-called foreign government. And when the US government indicted Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Chairwoman Penny Hess and myself, they published a press release, which is also revealing. They published a press release, which they don't always do, to go along with the indictment. In the press release, they said that the Uhuru movement's crime was that it, quote, weaponized free speech. But as Chairman Omali Yeshitela has said, what is the purpose of free speech if not to be a weapon against tyranny and oppression? The chairman challenges us, in the white community in particular, take a look at the history of the so-called First Amendment. The First Amendment to the US Constitution was created in the Bill of Rights in 1789 and ratified into law in 1791. African people were still enslaved in this country in 1791 when the Bill of Rights was written by white men who were enslaving them. The First Amendment, as the chairman says, was never meant for African people. So we have to understand, as white people, when they attack the First Amendment right of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, for whom the First Amendment was not intended in the first place, they're making an assault on the First Amendment itself, a right that was created for white people to begin with. They're using an attack on Chairman Omali Yeshitela as the vehicle through which to dismantle any semblance of freedom of speech altogether. And as always, it begins with an attack on the African Liberation Movement. And as always, it is the African Liberation Movement, represented by its leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who stands at the front of the barricades, defending all of the people's rights against the encroachment of the tyranny of the US colonial state. So you'll see in the video in just a few minutes how the FBI on July 29th of 2022, almomost 2 years ago, carried out these military-style violent raids, SWAT team, heavily armed, jackbooted thugs that came in and battering rammed through the doors of 7 homes and offices, used flashbang grenades, drones, assault rifles, handcuffs, zip-tied Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Deputy Chair, and others on that day. And in the period following those raids, 4 Uhuru movement forces, Chairman Omali, Director Akile Anai, Chairwoman Penny, and myself, we were characterized in the indictment of a Russian national of being unindicted co-conspirators in this, absurd and ludicrous narrative the US government had created that we were co-conspirators in a Russian plot to sow discord in the United States. During this 9-month time period where we have not been charged with anything after the raids, the US government continues to escalate its attacks on the African People's Socialist Party through economic warfare, imposing sanctions against the Uhuru movement, closing banks, waging other kinds of financial attacks. And finally, on April 18th of 2023, last year, the US so-called Department of Justice issued a federal grand jury indictment of the Uhuru Three, the primary target of which is Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who, as Chairwoman Penny said, at 82 years old, has given nearly his entire life to the struggle for the liberation of African and oppressed peoples. And it is because of him, the US government has never been able to succeed in crushing the African liberation movement. And that is why they're trying to put him in prison today. So we were arraigned in federal court in May of last year. And we have been charged under 2 statutes, one which is a very obscure and rarely enforced statute that the U.S. Department of Justice dusted off in the law books to use as an instrument for this political prosecution, which is called 18 U.S.C. 951, essentially alleging that Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who has been fighting for African freedom since he was in his 20s, suddenly in 2014, at the age of 72, became an agent in a foreign agent, an illegal foreign agent in a Russian criminal conspiracy against the U.S. government. And the other charge is that conspiracy to commit an offense against the U.S. government. These two charges carry a maximum prison sentence of 15 years in federal prison for each of the Uhuru Three if convicted. And again, it is an attempt to liquidate the history of 50 years of struggle by the African People's Socialist Party for Black freedom by saying that, you know, this disgusting, slanderous, racist, insulting charge that Chairman Omali Yeshitela or any African person would need to be educated by a Russian or by anyone else to be able to fight for their liberation, to be able to see their oppression. Chairman Omali Yeshitela said it the best on July 29th when he stood on the steps of his home and spoke to the press after the FBI raid. He said, "There were no Russians there when the police killed George Floyd. There were no Russians there when the police killed Mike Brown and Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland. It wasn't Russia that brought Chairman Omali Yeshitela into revolutionary life. It was America. It was U.S. colonial oppression, the colonial mode of production." And they want to liquidate all of this by saying, oh no, Uhuru, which means freedom, Black freedom, is actually a Russian plot to sow discord in the United States. So as Chairman Omali has said, the Uhuru Three are not guilty of these bogus charges. No, it is they who are guilty. It is the US government who are the real criminals. They have the blood of African people, of African freedom fighters that they have historically stalked, surveilled, harassed, infiltrated, imprisoned, tortured, and assassinated on their hands. They have the blood of Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, Martin Luther King, and so many others. Marcus Garvey, who was also framed up, arrested, imprisoned, and ultimately deported by the FBI in its early days when it was first getting its start in the 1920s. So this is nothing new. It is consistent with the US government's track record of waging a war against the righteous struggle of African people to be free. And as Chairwoman Penny said, they didn't charge us with extortion, with blowing up buildings, with anything like that. Everything they charged us with are examples of pure political speech protected by the so-called First Amendment to the Constitution. Pure political speech that forwards the political agenda Chairman Omali Yeshitela has been relentlessly pursuing for over 50 years. So to close my presentation, I want to say that this is the first time this particular law has ever been used to target pure speech. This is an incredibly dangerous precedent that the US government is trying to set. They are making the absurd argument that it has nothing to do with free speech because they allege that it is a content-neutral prosecution, meaning it's not about what the Uhuru movement said, but the fact that, quote, the Russians told them to say it. Obviously, this is not true, and no one is buying into this nonsense. Otherwise, the Department of Justice would be banging down the doors of every APAC office in this country to arrest these lobbyists who are funded by foreign governments to the tune of millions, if not billions of dollars every single year. So if you want to, okay, so my time is up. So I just want to say you can find out more about this by going to handsoffuhuru.org/motion to dismiss. Read the indictment, read the legal documents, read our motion to dismiss the indictment on the grounds that it violates the First Amendment. Read the government's argument that the Uhuru movement was engaged in spreading disinformation, which the US government has now redefined by saying disinformation can include the truth if it makes the United States look bad, if it exposes the truth about the oppression and genocide carried out by the United States all around the world, including right here on the stolen indigenous land upon which it rests, and upon these stolen African human beings upon whose backs this country and this system rests. So we are going forward. We have a trial set for September 3rd of this year in Tampa, Florida. We have a pending motion for dismissal that was filed on First Amendment grounds that is still under review by the judge. But I will close by saying, as Chairman Omalia Shatella says, our real jury is in the room you're in right now in Tacoma. Our real jury is the masses of the people of the world. The real verdict will be delivered by the people in the streets. And that is why we have to build a massive movement. We need thousands of people to be at the courthouse in September, demand the US government take their hands off Chairman Omalia Shatella, take their hands off the Uhuru movement, drop the charges on the Uhuru 3, down with colonialism, unity through reparations. Uhuru.
Uhuru, unity through reparations, unity through reparations. Drop the charges now. Drop the charges now. Uhuru, thank you so much, Chair Jesse, for that summation of the charges, and we'll go ahead and share that video that we couldn't put on earlier about the race.
There's still no sound.
I will share it from over here. We'll be able to see it in just a second.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
Need a breach? What do you need? Need one. I don't know. Oh, it's all better than money. All no, thank you.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa.
Uhuru. I'm having difficulty starting my video, but I just wanted to, yeah, thank you, comrades. It's great to hear everyone. Okay, let's try that one more time. There we go. Uhuru. Well, yes, as it's been said, Uhuru means freedom. And so I just want to say I'm very honored to be here tonight. And I want to really appreciate the work to take time for us to see that video of the raise on July 29th. So I just really want to salute this event. I want to appreciate the United Methodist Church, as well as the, USM, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement there in Tacoma. This is, and just the speakers, everybody that has spoke before me. And just want to say that I want to really appreciate, in particular, the presentations by Chairwoman Penny and Chair Jesse to really lay out, one, the relationship that the system of colonialism has, how that has fractured. Oh, we can go to the next slide, I think. Maybe we're on two different documents. One more time. Okay, sorry, comrades. Yeah, all the way to the top. There we go. I think we are. Uhuru. So, sorry, I just got distracted with that. I can keep on moving. So I just wanted to appreciate everybody so much for being here. And we have some slides that are coming up that will give you a little bit of more information about why you are here, what we are calling on you to do. This is a call to action. And so again, my name is Mwezi Odom, and I am a member of the African People's Socialist Party. And I also have the great honor of serving as the chairperson of this fight back, this very serious fight back against state attacks against the African liberation struggle, the same thing that happened in the 1960s, however we call it.
We lost Sharon Wazy. Oh, there she is.
Okay. And I've been having some difficulty with this video, so I'll keep going, but just bear with me, everyone. Thank you so much. So we can start on slide number 1. And what you'll see is this is the flyer. If we don't have these on the ground, we'll make sure that we get those to you on the ground in Tacoma. This is a, oh, I think we're showing something different. All right, let me roll with it. So I am the, part of this fight back, this anti-colonial fight back, saying, that, we reject the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party, and that we demand that that they drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. This has gained international support. And, but, just on the question of free speech alone, because we are seeing that free speech for the oppressed is not the same for the, for the oppressor. And we're seeing what the free speech of the oppressor is doing in Palestine, what it is doing, this economic blockade in Cuba and in all other parts of the world, here on this indigenous land, that is stolen, and, political prisoners on this land, on their own land, and have to cross borders. All of this, we understand, is a struggle for oppressed peoples who are fighting for self-determination. And these charges against the Uhuru 3 are completely bogus, because it really, just shows the, fragile nature of a very shaky system that, that is holding on for dear life. And we, the people, are going to be the reason and, and be responsible for overturning this system once and for all, so we can live in a world where nobody's, life is built on the oppression of anyone else. And this is a human rights issue, and we want to appreciate you for coming here. I cannot overstate that enough. So next slide. And what you just saw there was the banner for the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. And on July 8th, so we are coming up on the, 1 year of this, forming of over 40 organizations and more than that joined this, this call to action to build this fight back coalition. And this coalition is, as we, says, a non-sectarian anti-colonial free speech coalition to make the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, defend the right to, freedom of speech, and to, recognize the, genuine and, legitimate struggles of of the people for self-determination, liberation and freedom of speech overall. And so on the next slide, you might be able to see a picture of, okay, so I'll show that maybe at another time, or it's coming up. Who our coalition is, but go to handsoffforhuru.org/coalition and please take a moment to, look at the organizations, read our demands, read our principles of unity, and join this fight back as an organization or as an individual. And, we want to salute the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, who are, members of the Fight Back Coalition. And, this is one of the cases that we are really, putting forth and want to make sure that everybody, that we can be a part of the, struggle to keep Leonard Peltier, alive and out of that prison. And so we say, not one more year, free Leonard Peltier, who has been locked up for over 50 years, an Indigenous man fighting during the American Indian movement, during that same period of counterinsurgency on the people. So we say, not one more year, free Leonard Peltier. And I saw that link was added in the chat and just want to salute that. So on the next slide, you might be able to see, again, here are some of the organizations, thank you, comrade, that make up the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. Again, join by going to handsoffforhuru.org/coalition. And next slide, please. We want to salute the tour that just took place in Southern California. Members of that coalition and the community really showed up to make the demand to drop the charges against the Uhuru Three and to help raise the resources, because we talked about this case, and this is, a very, unprecedented case. And we have a very solid legal team that we are, really behind, and that are behind the Uhuru Three. And we want to have, as we say, a bulletproof defense. And so we want to go into that courtroom with everything that we need to be able to fight against a bureaucracy that, that will use anything, any instrument, as has been said, of the state against the people. And so we just want to salute that great, tour and fundraiser, and also remind, and to also let people know that we have another, an event coming up on this weekend, with members. You can go to the next slide, of that coalition on, about the war, on Cuba, and the genocide, right, in Cuba, and the genocide that's being waged on the people of, in Gaza, in, Palestine. So just want to say, join this fight back, and we'll go to the next slides and we can move maybe a little quicker now. Thank you so much. Again, so on that day, July 29, 2022, you saw the video, Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, on his doorstep, where this raid happened, held a press conference and launched the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign. And this is a fight back campaign. And again, we're saying hands off freedom, hands off Africa. So I want to salute, on the next slide, please, thank you, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela. These are leaders in the African, People's Socialist Party, who are, again, the political theory that was raised earlier is African internationalism. And so we are addressing the concrete, conditions of, of the most oppressed, and in this case, African people, and the African working class. And as Penny said, Chairwoman Penny said, you should come to St. Louis and see on the ground the work led by Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela to build and to transform an African community, that has for centuries and for decades, been under the boot of colonialism in the most, worst ways, where you have Black people that make less than $5 a day in this community. And this is where we are going. This is where they targeted the African liberation struggle, because we have to have a strong leadership. So I really want to salute these comrades as well. So next slide. And again, to bring forward the understanding of colonialism versus racism. And these are some of the reasons why, they won't say this, but this is why you understand that when we take on colonialism, this is about African people having power over their own life. And this is why the theory of African internationalism is so, can be threatening, right, to an oppressor, to a parasite, where the host is trying to break free of this relationship. And so I really want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela for making this, struggle. And, out of the ashes of the 1960s, this struggle continues. And so I just want to salute Omali Yeshitela. So here's just some photos from the raids, but we saw the video. We can go to the next slide. And after the raids, they named 4 members of our movement, which you'll see on the next slide, as unindicted co-conspirators. So we have the Uhuru 3, but really it was the Uhuru 4 who were named as unindicted co-conspirators, which means that they weren't charged in court. They couldn't go and take this, to a court to appeal or any type of process like that. We had to take that out into the streets to make sure that, that this was not going to happen in isolation. So we really want to salute all of our supporters. On the next slide, then in April of last year, the U.S. government, indicted Chairman Amalia Shatella, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville, and this is the Uhuru 3. And we hope you all bring the Uhuru 3 there and be on the ground in Tacoma, and to just continue to take this campaign everywhere that we go. On the next slide is why I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to make some quick call to actions. I want to call on everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/trial. Go to handsoffuhuru.org/trial. This is where you can sign up for the trial. We are calling on everybody to be on the ground in Tampa, Florida on September 3rd. And we are expecting perhaps a month-long trial and a very big mobilization on August 31st, which is the weekend before the trial on the ground. And so we want to call on everybody to, contribute to this fight back, to, come to the trial, be here, or send people here, and volunteer any way that you can, because we want to make sure that they understand that when they touch one of us, they touch all of us, and the people are winning. So I want to say, hands off Uhuru, drop the charges against the Uhuru 3, free Palestine, Uhuru.
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 Uhuru, thank you so much, Chair Mwezi, for joining us tonight for our program and just all that you do to push forward the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. And next, I would love to bring up Taliesin Crosby, who is here with us in this room tonight. And Taliesin is a rank and file Teamster and a class struggle trade unionist at UPS. They're also a proud revolutionary proletarian internationalist and a cadre with the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. Welcome, Taliesin.
Uhuru. Revolutionary greetings, comrades. It is such an honor to be here. Thank you so much to all the organizers and our MC and all the tireless efforts that went into making this happen. Thank you to the United Methodist Church for hosting us. And yeah, I just want to express my thanks and gratitude. I really appreciate everything the previous presenters have said, and on the note of how we are on Indigenous land, I would just like to take a brief moment of silence. Recognize right now we're on Puyallup land, and kind of like think about what that means. So just a brief moment of silence. Uhuru. So I want to talk about political repression and the necessity of fighting back and how we fight back. As was mentioned, my name's Taliesin Crosby. I'm proud trade unionist by day, and by night I am a proud revolutionary with the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. And we are no stranger to political repression. I'm going to talk about 3 instances. So first, for those who don't know, in 2010, members of our organization faced very similar raids by the FBI. 23, the homes of 23 leaders in the anti-war movement, including many leading comrades in the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, had their homes raided. by the FBI. As I was watching this presentation, it just felt like deja vu. You know, the FBI taking personal possessions, documentation, family photos, things like that. And you know, what did we do? We fought back, right? We are leaders in the anti-war movement, in the people's movements. Many of us, like myself, are leaders in the trade unions and in the shop floor. So when the order was called for the anti-war 23 to appear before a grand jury, every single person refused. They were not going to talk to the police. They were not going to squeal to the pigs. And instead, they took to the streets. And because we're leaders in the various struggles that we're in, whether that's anti-war, national liberation, labor, our communities, in these mass movements, came out to the street with us. The anti-war 23 went on a national tour. And at the end of the day, every single charge was dropped. I should note that the charges that the FBI were trying to get us with was what they call aiding and abetting terrorism, what they call material support for terrorism, what we call international solidarity. They were trumped up bogus charges. Once again, it sounds very similar. And in particular, they were looking at the solidarity work that we were doing with the people of Palestine, the people of Philippines, and other places. But we fought back, and when we fight, we win. It was a long, hard-fought battle, but we came out victorious. And I know that in all legal battles, when the state comes to repress us politically, when the masses stand up and fight, we win. Last year, the year prior, some of our comrades in Tampa, Florida, student protesters were holding a protest on campus, demanding expansion of DEI programs on campus, and the police attacked them. They shut down the protest and tried to charge those students and faculty with assault on an officer, other trumped up bogus charges. And those students, 20 years old, 22 years old, were facing 5 to 10 years in federal prison. And they were actually told, if you apologize to the police officers for what you did, we'll drop all charges. Do you think they apologized? No, they took to the streets. They went on a national tour, and I'm so proud to say that our comrades in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement in Tampa, Florida, were out there on the streets with the Tampa 5, organizing to fight back against political repression. And then last December, shortly before it was about to go to court, all charges were dropped on the Tampa 5. When we fight, we win, Uhuru. And lastly, just one final example. This is actually something that happened right here in Tacoma, Washington, about a week and a half ago. As many of us know, the genocide in Gaza is escalating. The Israeli offensive forces are attacking Rafah, the last bastion of safety, and the Palestinian resistance has called for the people of the world to escalate in their solidarity and defense of Palestine. So we took that seriously. We looked around at the action taken around in Tacoma. There's been several rallies over the last several months, but they remained rallies, meet in a park, in the plaza, do some chants, hear some speakers, and then people go home. We knew that the people of this city wanted to escalate, that the people wanted to answer the call of the resistance. So we answered that call and caused real disruption. The protesters at this rally blocked Ruston Way, turning traffic around, and taking to the streets for the first time since October. It was a resounding success. The people of Tacoma turned out, and as our car brigade was driving away, those who form a protective barrier between protesters and potentially agitators, every one of them who was driving away was pulled over and arrested by the Tacoma Police Department. So we've got our, and I'm included in that. I was one of those. So we've got our court date coming up at early July. I should have the exact date on me right now, but I do not. We have that court date coming up, and you can bet we're going to be fighting back. We're going to be taking to the streets, because the most powerful weapon that we have is the masses. So we're in agreement, like, how should we respond to political repression? We should fight back. It requires mass movements. It requires unity of action from people that you may not agree with totally on this thing or that thing. That doesn't matter. We can stand against political repression together. And in particular, so you've decided you want to fight back. You decided you want to have a campaign and fight against political repression. How do you wage a campaign? Well, we have to be scientific in our approach as well. You know, I'm a proud revolutionary. We are Marxist-Leninists, and you know, to quote Mao, every effort must be made to identify the principal contradiction, and then everything else falls in place. Once we're able to identify the contradictions taking place when we're facing political repression, when we're able to identify the different forces at play, then we can build a strategic alliance, we can build a united front, and we can win, we can succeed if we properly and scientifically assess all of the different forces at play. Our general strategy for revolution is a united front with a strategic alliance between the multinational working class and the national liberation movements. Two powerful forces that when united cannot be defeated. And we implement that in every campaign from the city level to the national level. That's what we did when the anti-war 23 were being faced with charges. That's what we did when the Tampa 5 were being faced with political repression. That's what we're going to do here, and we're going to win. And we stand in unconditional solidarity with the Uhuru 3. And let me clarify, when I say unconditional, when we're looking at the Palestinian liberation movement, when we're looking at the Philippines, when we're looking at all freedom-loving people fighting for liberation, self-determination, and socialism, we support them without conditions. So that's all I have to say for now. Thank you so much for having me. All power to the workers and oppressed, and yeah, Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Thank you so much. Just really appreciate your contribution, and just the, you know, just knowing that other organizations have experienced this, and the solidarity that you all have with the Uhuru 3 is really profound. Next, I want to bring onto the Zoom Lauren Gerlich, who is a member and co-founder of University of Puget Sound Students for a Democratic Society, who have been facing political repression from the school's administration for organizing against the presence of Zionist politicians at UPS and fighting the school's punitive and repressive procedures. Please welcome Lauren.
Hi, thank you for inviting me onto the panel. I wanted to give an account of the local political repression of students in universities, specifically at the University of Puget Sound. Some context about our chapter of SDS is that in February, a Zionist politician, Derek Kilmer, was invited to give a lecture at our school. And after not allowing him to speak in a peaceful protest organized by our chapter, our school has taken a punitive approach at stifling the student movement and the movement for Palestine that is working to collapse such colonial modes of production and destruction. They have placed my comrade Christian and I under conduct probation for a year. And by doing this, they are steadfast to make sure that my ideals and role in organizing the February 21st protest are not in accordance with the university's ideals and don't represent true leadership. We have and are continuing to challenge the notion presented within both Christian and my hearings that we acted as representative leadership of UPS SDS, or that we were an organization that incited any form of violence. The administration hopes that I can work towards being a better student leader by admitting that UPS SDS incited violence and by apologizing to the administrators who inflicted violence on student protesters. It is incredibly illogical to lie to the administration and betray my values, the values that are shown by my community, and that would help me to be a better leader. I do know, however, that true leadership is one from and for the people, and Christian and I, even UPS SDS as a whole, only led the protest as much as we brought attention to the Zionist speaker brought to our campus. The dissent, outrage, and the disruption in the form of peacefully marching on stage were all outcomes directly out of the student body and from an administration who refused to listen to them and continues to refuse. Students' requests to cancel the pro-genocide speaker were actively ignored. After first a formal letter to the president was delivered, the signatures of over 300 students and affiliates were presented to him and Sarah Comstock in an in-person meeting, and a protest on February 9th against the ongoing genocide against Palestinians and the school's complicity in genocide through this invitation to Representative Kilmer. These actions and indifference to our pleas continue to fail to acknowledge the feelings of Muslim and Middle Eastern students and all those righteously horrified by the live stream war crimes enacted by our country's direct aid to Israel that have devastated every aspect of Palestinians' lives every day for 250 days now, and about 100 years. As far as I'm concerned, these are the only actions, or rather inactions, that led to the disruption at Representative Kilmer's lecture on February 21st. It's also clear that this punitive hearing and appeal process that Christian and I have been going through serve only to conceal the university's ongoing complicity in genocide and further repress any potential student activism against it. The university claims to be fair-minded and honest with all members of the Puget Sound community and to respect their safety rights and privileges and to show care and concern for the community in which they are part of. I only see this claim as a broad-faced lie, as they violently oppress the feelings of Palestinian students by referring to an Israel-Hamas war and repress the voices of students, especially anti-Zionist Jewish students like myself, by claiming that some of our chants or messages are anti-Semitic. I can only laugh at the notion that our administration truly cares about anti-Semitism, as only last year a swastika was found on campus by staff and wasn't removed for 2 days, in which time Jewish students were exposed. Clearly, the university cares far more about acts of claimed anti-Semitism when it enables them to silence a pro-Palestinian message. We must question why this swastika was allowed to stay up for days, while the banners saying cancel Kilmer's lecture and end U.S. aid to Israel and stop the U.S. and Israeli genocide in Gaza were removed within hours. The university doesn't actually value the safety of Jewish students on campus, and they merely care about their image as a liberal arts university. These sanctions are explicitly non-restorative, and they're purely a reactionary attempt to quell student activism on campus, something the administration attempted with the repression of the UPS 3, and are working to further repress by sanctioning and to ban SDS as an organization as a whole from working in or protesting on the university grounds. This ban is placed very particularly to end in June 2026, when Krishna and myself will both conveniently have graduated, directing their repression at our individual right to organize. We have made it clear on several accounts that we hold no leadership position within the organization. And despite that, the decision letter naming our sanctions claims that our leadership incited any disruption or any violence. At the protest, nearly 100 students and community members entered Schneebeck Hall, spurred on by nothing but an administration who refuses to listen to its students. Regardless of that fact, these sanctions punish Christian and I harshly, removing our right to expression and engagement within our community. And these hearings, sanctions, and appeal processes are a farce, only serving to keep us from representing our values for life and human dignity. The administration must be held accountable for their clear obstruction of our right to free speech and protest. And the administration must be held accountable for their refusal to acknowledge student voices of dissent. The university and President Crawford must be held accountable for their financial and rhetorical complicity in the genocide of Palestinians. As the student movement is under attack from the same powers that protect colonial structures, we must stand alongside one another with our powerful liberation groups facing repression and fight it together, knowing our struggles are intertwined. I want to thank you all for the support of the student movement and helping to expose the violent suppression of our rights as we fight to hold the university accountable for its complicity in genocide and fight for a free Palestine and all nations under occupation.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Lauren, just for that summation about what's going on your campus and your solidarity with the Uhuru 3. And next, I would like to bring up Anitra Freeman, who is a writer, organizer, and a 29-year member of the Women's Housing Equality and Enhancement League, also known as WHEEL, a group of currently and formerly homeless women formed in 1993 to end homelessness for women in Seattle and King County. Please welcome Anitra.
Thank you. Yes, as my name is Anitra Freeman, and I'm a participant of WHEEL. It does stand for Women's Housing Equality and Enhancement League, and you don't have to remember that. We're WHEEL. WHEEL is a grassroots organizing effort of homeless and formerly homeless women working for dignity, safety, and justice, and to end homelessness. And thank you for inviting WHEEL here today to speak about how our efforts and obstacles coincide with yours. All justice issues are related: social, economic, racial. As Dorothy Day once said, our problems stem from our acceptance of this filthy, rotten system. As this Uhuru movement said, it's a colonialist system. Well, frankly, I consider America to be colonized by the same people, the rich people who make decisions that they do not experience the consequences that you and I do. The people making billions from weapons of war aren't out there shooting and being shot. The people making billions from manipulating the housing market are not being evicted and sleeping on the street, and neither are any of their friends or family. The people who make sure that healthcare is a commodity and that the insurance companies always get their cut are never going to go without healthcare. Neither are their friends or family, because they are getting rich. For the people in power, this is not a filthy, rotten system. In order to stay in power, to preserve that colonialist system, they have to control the narrative. And that is why students opposing war are being portrayed as violent criminals, why activists trying to dismantle systems of oppression are being portrayed as pawns of Russia, like Russia is against systems of oppression. Why homeless people who have no space of their own and are trying to survive in public spaces are portrayed as dangers, as filth and obstacles to be swept away. WHEEL has been pushing back against that narrative for 30 years. Homeless and formerly homeless women stand up and speak up for ourselves in city council, county council, in Olympia, and on the streets. We have made public housing more accessible. We've protected the privacy rights of homeless people from the Homeless Management Information System, it's called. Created new public housing and shelter, and created our own shelters, 2 low barrier 24/7 shelters for all women identified women in need in any condition. Many of our shelter staff have been homeless themselves. We say that every woman has strengths and gifts, and we've proved it. And since 2000, we've stand Women in Black vigils whenever a homeless person dies outside or by violence in King County. All are welcome to join our vigils, women or men, homeless or housed. The vigils last for an hour and are in silence. And our next vigil will be next Wednesday at noon at Seattle City Hall. If you want to come up, you're welcome. When we began, we deliberately decided to stand only for homeless people who died outside or by violence, because those deaths should shock the moral conscience and at the same time are the most dismissed and demeaned. They were often ignored or treated with victim-blaming contempt, part of controlling the narrative, to deny that it is society's choices that drive people into homelessness and death. In 24 years, Women in Black have stood for more than 2,000 homeless men, women, and children who have died outside or by violence in King County. We've named each one, along with the cause of death and the age of death. The average age of death has remained roughly the same through all those years, about 50 years old. To put that in perspective, the average age of a housed person in King County is about 80 years old. Women in Black remind the public of the humanity of homeless people and of their own. I once lived in the middle-class cocoon, where I was a good liberal on most issues, but I knew very little about the realities of homelessness, poverty, and economic justice. I'm still learning. I'm still learning about colonialism. People can learn. People can change. And people can outweigh dollars once you get enough of them together. I am angry. I'm angry at every politician who perpetuates this filthy, rotten system and every billionaire that backs them. I'm not angry at most of the people who voted for them. I want to pull them out of the pit they're in and show them the light. We don't have to accept this filthy, rotten system.
Uhuru, drop the charges. Now. Drop the charges. Now. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Anitra, for being here and just rounding off our panel discussion today. And now it's the time that we are going to fundraise, and our goal today is $500, which is going to the Legal Defense Fund for the Hands Off Uhuru. And this is just, this is us as a people pushing back and coming together and fighting to keep the democratic space open for African people to advocate and organize for their liberation. This is the people's movement, and thousands of people have supported this campaign and have raised funds, and we've brought, the people have brought us this far, and now we're going to bring it home to victory and get these charges dropped. And like I said, our goal today is $500, and you can start doing that by going to handsoffahuru.org/donate. I think we're also passing around a can if you want to throw some cash in there tonight. And so just to give you a detailed information about the fundraising campaign, the phase 1 campaign started on the same day that the counteroffensive was launched, July 29th, 2022. The majority of those funds that were totaling $277,500 were needed to cover just the cost of retaining the legal team. And now we have 5 lawyers on the case, along with other campaign expenses, including travel and organizing to get this out into the world, because this is a political trial, and our jury, like we said, the people is putting the US government on trial. And we have no time to waste in getting phase 2 behind us. Phase 2's goal is to raise $100,000 by the time of our trial in September. This is based on anticipating the costs of legal fees, hiring expert witnesses, hiring investigators, paying for court transcripts, paying for research, housing, and more. I mean, this is a month-long trial. So the Uhuru's ability to fight back in the courts cannot be limited by the lack of resources. We have to fund this fight back. And in addition to that, organizing the people's movement in Tampa during the month is going to take resources as well. So we need to raise $100,000, comrades. And, if you think about it, that's 100 people donating $1,000 each. Tonight, we're just raising $500. That's our goal. I mean, of course, if somebody has $100,000 to give tonight, please go ahead and do that. So $500, if 10 people want to put in 50, I think I'm doing that right. That's all we need, and or if 5 people have $100, this is also an opportunity for us to pay reparations as well. And you can pay by check, Venmo, bank transfer, crypto, etc. Every dollar you donate is your way of making mark on history. This trial will be remembered for generations to come. And they think that they're putting the Uhuru 3 on trial, but it is the anti-colonial movement that is putting the state on trial. So this is really being a part of history by donating to handsoffahuru.org/donate. And next, I would like to bring up my comrade, Peter, who has a few comments for us. Uhuru.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Yes, that is my name, Peter. I'm a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, also a member of the Tacoma Catholic Worker, operating a guest house for homeless people, 15th and G. Been here for 21 years doing that work. Recently, I've been working with Comrade Janet to help organize this event at the Proctor Market, faithfully there on Saturday, handing out invitations to white people with the opening line of, I would like to invite you on a forum for free speech, of which 80% of the people say, I already have free speech. So I've determined that white people live in a white bubble world. They have no freaking idea of what's going on in the world. So they do have free speech. They're right, as long as they don't speak out against anything that is of any interest to people's rights. So if they remain quiet and just go along, they can speak whatever they want about their wine and their cheese and whatever else they want to. But if they speak out against anything else, they will be in trouble. My thought about that is, someone mentioned the filthy, rotten system. That's our founders, Dorothy Day, said that. Our system is filthy and it's rotten. There's no doubt about that. Those of us who believe in that, who speak out against those things, we are subject to the same treatment that the Uhuru 3 is going through. There's no doubt of that. If they are found guilty, they could take the list of all the members of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, one by one, visit us and pull us out the same way. Or whatever organization that you belong to that is not so-called normal or mainstream, you're in the same situation as that. Now, in terms of the legal world, what I know is if you are poor and you get into trouble, you're in more trouble than you can imagine, because the assigned crappy lawyer that they're going to give to you has so many cases that you're just a number along their case thing. You're not going to do very well. If you are rich, it doesn't matter if you are innocent or guilty, you have a better chance of getting off. So what does it mean? What it means to me is I'm going to contribute tonight because I want the Uhuru 3 to have the best legal team possible so they can get off without any charges at all. Because I'm investing not only in their freedom, my freedom, and your freedom, friends. So that's why I'm going to give tonight. That's why I encourage you to give tonight, and be aware that this is a very important event for all of us in this room. And maybe one day other people will understand it's important for them too, as they begin to understand that capitalism is done. It's over. It's time for a change. We need to have people realize this, and then we'll all be on the same page. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa.
All right, thank you all so much, and everyone who has donated so far. We've got $20 from Jesse, who spoke earlier. I gave $40. Sandy has pledged $50. Wendy, 20. We had an anonymous donation for 100. James for 20. And I'm not sure how much that is, but it sounds like we're getting really close. But I didn't know if there was anybody else in the room who was not read that wanted to share what their pledge was.
I'm going to pledge 50 right now.
50 from Margaret. Uhuru. Janet. 50 from Janet. 50 from Melanie. We got over here. 50 from Daphne. This is how we do it. You know, this is how the people work, right? Is there any calculation that we can do? Okay, well, while we're calculating and seeing if we raised our goal, hopefully, we also want to just invite people to become a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. So as you've heard, we're the solidarity front of the African Liberation Movement. We work in the white community to build reparations for African people, white solidarity with Black power, and we're under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. USM is the Anti-Colonial Solidarity Organization for white people who want to oppose genocide, war, and imperialism, and stand in solidarity with African and Indigenous, Palestinian, and all oppressed peoples of the world, struggling for national liberation and self-determination. And what makes USM really unique is that we are under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. You know, they created our organization as a strategy for the African Revolution, for the African working class who have been fighting for political and economic power in their own hands. And so in USM, we say as white people, we will no longer be complicit in genocide. So this is just a way that you can participate in anti-colonial revolution and defending anti-colonial free speech. And there's many different ways to get involved. There's need for graphic design, for writing, for art, for anything you can really think of. We really just tried to create new ideas to really bring the messages of the African People's Socialist Party into the white community. We've done, you know, drag shows for reparations and music shows for reparations and things like that. So we're really just building a culture of reparations, of solidarity for USM. So there's no shortage of ways to be involved. And you can go to uhurusolidarity.org/join to join. And there's monthly sustainerships. There's also yearly memberships for students, and all the contributions go towards reparations work for the African People's Socialist Party. And when you join, you'll get invited to be in an orientation so you can understand more about the Uhuru movement, and you get a membership packet, and you can talk to someone about how you can get involved and how you can spend your time for the African Revolution. So please, and we're also building here in Tacoma. You know, we're trying to build a branch here so that we can have more events like these and more reparations that are being raised for the African People's Socialist Party. So I believe, yes.
I'm just getting some notes on the thread. So South Sound Green Party, who had co-sponsored this event but was not able to participate, pledged 50. Yes. That's from Colin.
Green Party pledged 50. I'm saying for the live.
Yes, the South Sound Green Party.
South Sound Green Party pledged $50 Uhuru.
And yeah, I think Amanda, and then Chermoisi pledged 25.
Chermoisi pledged 25 Uhuru. Chermoisi.
What you mentioned. And
okay.
I think we're getting a total of around 520. So I think we have that.
Or we've raised 520 Uhuru. Drop the charges. Drop the charges. Uhuru. That's amazing. That's so great. I am so excited about that. And we will not stop. Like we said, there is so many expenses for just the trial itself, which is so frustrating because the African People's Socialist Party raises money for so many other things for the community, for Black self-determination, that I'm sure we will get to discuss at another event. But now we just want to leave any time for Q&A if anybody has any questions generally or any questions specifically on the live, or I don't know how we're doing that, but if anybody has any questions here.
Well, I just want to make a comment. One thing that the Chairman O'Malley had said is that the whole question of free speech is not only a matter of him being able to say what he wants to say, but also of us being able to hear it. So it's a threat to my right,
right.
It's a right of everyone who, like, we saw these polls that showed everybody, Democrats and Republicans, most of the constituency are like, I hate my candidate. I wish there was something else. I wish there was some alternative. Well, you know, a revolutionary movement is the alternative, and yet, you know, so we need to be able to hear that. People need to be able to hear alternatives, and that's part of what this is a tap on. No, that's a lot for you to
yeah, just yeah, Sandy was just saying that, you know, yeah, it's an attack on our right to hear free speech, to hear alternatives to what the U.S. government wants to tell us. Yes. Peter, did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an answer here in the room, but I know there was a motion to quit. Is there any news about where that's at now? Dismiss, yeah.
Peter was asking if there was any motion to, or what was the latest on the motion to dismiss the case? Or what would the latest?
Uhuru, maybe Jesse could
Sure.
say they've been a year trying to determine this, Uhuru.
Yes. Well, first of all, this was a powerful event. I just want to salute all the speakers and all the organizations that came out to stand with the Uhuru 3 and, recognize that the attack, as Afia Nwangaza once said, the attack on the African People's Socialist Party is the tip of their spear. So it has to be the tip of ours. It is the vanguard of the struggle against repression, is the struggle to push back against the attacks on the Uhuru movement. And as far as Comrade Peter's question, so yes, there are 2 pretrial motions that were filed by our legal team, specifically through Leonard Goodman, with all of the other attorneys co-signing on it, that are still under review. One of them is the original motion for dismissal of the indictment on the grounds that the indictment itself constitutes a violation of the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. As Chairwoman Penny just said, that was filed almost a year ago. We were granted a hearing on that, which was held in September of last year for oral arguments by our attorneys and by the prosecutors in front of the magistrate judge. 4 months after that, the magistrate judge wrote a recommendation to deny the motion for dismissal. And now here we are almost 6 months later, the district judge, who's the main judge over the case, has yet to either adopt or reject his magistrate's recommendation. So, the motion for dismissal is still pending. And clearly it has created a serious conundrum for the colonial court system around this whole question of the First Amendment. So that's one. And the other, just to quickly say, pretrial motion that's also been filed is to compel the prosecutors to release the transcripts of the grand jury proceedings that were held to obtain this bogus indictment against Chairman Amalia Shatella and the Uhuru 3, because obviously the prosecutors deliberately misled the grand jury in order to get this ridiculous indictment. We want to see the transcripts of that grand jury proceeding, because when we have those transcripts, we can file another motion for dismissal of the charges on the grounds that the grand jury was misled. And because of that, because obviously that is what happened, the prosecutors up to this point have refused to turn over the transcripts of that grand jury, those grand jury proceedings. So those are two motions that are currently still under review with the judge in this case. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you for those details. Any other questions?
Uhuru, Comrade Nads.
Uhuru, Penny.
Yeah, I just wanted to really thank everybody who spoke and who came out today. And, thank you so much, Chair Mwezi, for that great overview on what is Hands Off Uhuru and for your very dynamic leadership. But Mads, I appreciate you so much. I just really wanted to salute the comrades from Freedom Road, SDS, and Wheel who spoke, and who just say that the comrades from Freedom Road were just about the first to be there. After July 29th, 2022, they were right there because, just letting us know that they fought back, they won, and we are totally confident that under this brilliant leadership of Chairman Amalia Shatella and the brilliant legal team that we have that's under the political leadership, because this is a political trial of the chairman, that we are going to win. And we really appreciate the support of Freedom Road and really appreciate SDS and the comrade from Wheel. I also really wanted to salute you, Comrade Peter, and I appreciated your presentation. I didn't realize that you were from the Catholic Worker something that I am very familiar with, and know that organization from, I believe, in the Bowery of New York. And just, really appreciate your statements, and everybody who spoke, who was able, and in the chat as well, to talk about, begin to articulate this colonial question and acknowledge colonialism exists. And that is something that Chairman Omali Yeshitela has fought for over the years, that we see this even in the mainstream now. When I first joined this movement under the leadership of the party, in those days, even the struggle in Palestine was called racism. And clearly that is, colonialism, and it is modeled off of what the United States has done to African and indigenous people. And so this is a powerful period that we live in, when more and more and more, we see that the colonial question is the question, because we can't win our rights as white people at the expense, while there is still colonialism in this planet. I mean, we can maybe get it because we sit on pedestals, so we have been part of the colonizer nation, but we can jump off that pedestal. We can join in solidarity with the liberation of African people and other oppressed and colonized people. And that is a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And, we salute, by the way, Aaron Bushnell, who we feel would have been in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. So just really salute all of you for this powerful event. I'm very excited about it. I appreciate all of you, Comrade Sandy, Mads, all of you so much. We are winning, and we are on the right side of history, and that feels good. So Uhuru, reparations now. And by the way, it is our, Sandy talked about, and the chairman has said, the right of the anti-colonial free speech, their right to speak, our right to hear, but also our right to organize for reparations in the white community under the leadership of the anti-colonial struggle. They're not taking that right away either. We are fighting for that, and we are winning under the leadership of the African Revolution, Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Chair Moisey, did you want to comment?
Uhuru, yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to say a few words just to really just join Chairwoman Penny, everyone on the ground for this really remarkable, meeting. And as Chairwoman Penny said around, our right to organize is so, crucial that in this period that we, create these democratic spaces where we can have, I just really want to join in saluting the comrades from Freedom Road Socialist Organization and these young, courageous students on these campuses. I want to salute SDS, and these are members of, the coalition. And, we embrace all these struggles. And I really want to thank Anitra, for your presentation, and Comrade Pete as well on the ground, and just say that what we are talking about is colonialism. All of these all of these are symptoms of colonialism. And if we are not, engaged in anti-colonial struggle, and just which we understand under this system is just even the right to speak, and to oppose, the terror on humanity, then we will be in this constant treadmill, which is our opportunity now to get off of that and to be on the ground. And this is why, and I know in the announcements you'll see an announcement. We're calling on people to come to the trial, and I hope these organizations will send contingents. We really hope to see you comrades there on the ground. We are going to give them a fight for their life. And as has been said in this struggle, is that they cannot win another war on the ground, because, they understand the power of the people. And that has been said, throughout this entire program. And so I just really want to salute everybody. We raised our goal. We will not stop, but we'll, take this out into the world, take our petition, put it on your tables, and, let's build everything, bring your fight backs into this fight back so that they deal with us united as one. And so just really want to say, join the coalition, join USM, get organized. And yes, we are winning. We will win. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
True.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yes, we are winning. Thank you so
We have
much.
an update. Amanda,
update.
the vice chair of Uhuru Solidarity Movement, is calculating things online. She had, Chair Moisey had actually told, like 50 and not 25, and must be some other pledges that we didn't name because our total is 595 right now.
Total 595. Uhuru.
Well, let me add 5 more to make
Plus
that
20.
600.
20 more in the can.
Oh, 595.
Wow, so we're at
Uhuru.
620 now with Chair Moisey's additional 5 and that 20 that just came
Okay,
in.
great. Right on.
Uhuru. I just wanted to also thank Chair Moisey for being part of this event and for your leadership. And I just want to reiterate and echo and unite with and underscore what you just said about all out to the trial. Every organization in that room right now and on Zoom with us, every individual to be with us in Tampa, Florida on August 31st for this massive mobilization in St. Petersburg, Florida, and then in the courthouse and outside the courthouse in Tampa, Florida, beginning on September 3rd for the trial of this era, the defining case, the defining political trial of this political era that will go down in the history books. And they're trying to set a precedent for their ability to repress anti-colonial speech, but this is going to go down in history as a precedent for the victory and forward motion of African and colonized peoples. And I know people have jobs, people have families, there are things that make it difficult to be there, but this is not one to sit out. This is history in the making. This is the one where we go an extra mile and do the unusual, do the uncomfortable, do whatever has to be done to be there in Tampa for this trial. That is the road to victory. That is the real verdict that will be delivered in September. So I just wanted to appreciate Chair Moisey for pushing that and encourage people to go to that website, handsoffufuru.org/trial, sign up and get involved in the process of getting thousands of people there. Thousands of people. The chairman is saying the long, hot summer has begun. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yes, thank you. Uhuru. All right. Well, we're going to end with some announcements. I believe we have some slides. Oh, I get to read it. Okay. So
yes, there will be. Somebody was asking, will there be caravans from St. Pete to Tampa? Yes. Oh, well, no, that says St. Louis to Tampa. I don't know about that, but there will be from St. Pete to Tampa.
Uhuru Chair Penny, did you want to say something? I heard you, but.
Oh, no, I was just looking at a comment from Raphael and he's saying, will there be caravans from St. Louis to Tampa? That is a good idea. We have to make that happen. Absolutely.
Uhuru, yes. Okay, so our announcements are this Saturday, there is a report back from the front lines, Cuba and Gaza, with the Hands Off Uhuru Coalition. And you can register there, handsoffufuru.org/report back. And our next local meeting here in Tacoma is Sunday, June 16th at 4 p.m. The address there, and you can also join on Zoom. And Janet is here in the room if you want to contact Janet for the link. We're building our branch here in Tacoma. And then also we have regions in the USM, or in all of the Uhuru movement, and our West Coast region has a meeting on Thursday, June 20th at 7 p.m. on Zoom as well. tinyurl.com/buildusmwest, and we're building the March Against Genocide, which there will be a march here in Tacoma in October 12th, which is also Indigenous Peoples Day. So we really, that's going to be our next big organization is around organizing the March Against Genocide, and I'm sure we will also have other organizations be a part of that coalition as well. And then a march and rally for hands-off Chairman Amalia Shatella. Drop the charges on Uhuru 3, Saturday, August 31st at 11 a.m. It's a march in St. Petersburg, but is there something that's virtual too that we can do here?
I
Or?
think the big thing is in St. Pete.
But yeah, it's in St. Pete, but.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Comrade Mads. Yes, so you'll go to handsoffuhuru.org/march, and this is, to help us, we want people to register so that we know who's coming. But if we want you to go to handsoffuhuru.org/march, but also come on the ground, because this will be an on the ground thing. We don't know about a virtual, thing yet, but we do hope to be able to show it live, but we want you there.
Yes.
Hope that helped. Yes.
Yes, come to be in Tampa, August 31st, in St. Petersburg and Tampa. We have to show the state that thousands of people are in support and stand behind Chairman Amalia Shatella.
Yeah, right on. It was brutal.
Oh, this is the march and rally before the trial. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Uhuru, yes. And yes, please come out for the trial, which is September 3rd. But with the festivities sort of starting on August 31st. Got it. Okay. Was that it? Was that all the announcements, I believe? Okay. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off.
Drop the charges.
Down.
Drop the charges.
Down.
Uhuru. Thank you.
Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Relentless.